All right, welcome to February 9th, 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. This is an exercise that I do every morning, a little bit after waking up, to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the various challenges and the opportunities that I met. I go over the 8 objectives of my creed, and I plan for and prepare for the coming day. But first, a little welcome to any new subscribers that may be finding this video. This is a video happening in Japan, but it's not necessarily about Japan. This is my diary, basically, something that I do, and you can always tell these videos because they always start off with the same title, The Good Life, with a little sunshine at the beginning. So if you're not interested in hearing my diary entry, then this probably isn't the right video for you. But there's plenty of, Japan content, particularly with the retiring in Japan. And after I get settled into my new house, then eventually I'll be getting back out into the mountains again. But welcome. Also, a disclaimer: I do talk about sensitives or subjects that are sensitive for some people in these videos. So be forewarned. I may talk about things that might make you uncomfortable. If you're uncomfortable with topics like death, religion, atheism. I am an atheist, and that makes people uncomfortable. So at least that's what they tell me. So I talk about those things sometimes, and but usually not in my other videos, but just this one, this, and I have another series that I haven't started up yet, which are my book readings for my book Going Alone. So I talk about that stuff there too, a lot. Okay, disclaimers aside, welcome aside, and thank you to my supporters, my Patreon supporters, my members on YouTube, anyone that watches my videos. Your support is very much appreciated. All right, let's see. And I do under a time constraint this morning. I am going to be, I have something to do at the top of the hour, so I will be diligent in my endeavor to not to stray too much in my thoughts. Let's talk about the last, so I'll do three things in this video. The last 24 hours, talk about the objectives. I'll talk about the last 24 hours since I did this last video yesterday at this time. I'll go over the 8 objectives of my creed, and I'll plan for the coming day. First, the last 24 hours, but a little lead up to that. If you followed these videos or my postings on social media in the last week, you'll know that this was a trying week. I struggled. This is the first week that I was really struggling with being retired. I think I've identified the heart of the problem, and I think I've at least initially come out the other side. I think I've tuned things, and it's almost like a SpaceX rocket that, malfunctions on launch. Oh, hold on, the dog wants in. Ollie the black dog heard me talking, and he wants to join me. There he is. So in this case, it was almost like a SpaceX rocket that failed, crashed, but had enough telemetry so that the engineers could redo things for the next launch, which was successful. So I learned this week that what I was feeling, the kind of malaise that I was feeling, was not related to my career necessarily, the lack thereof. It was not related to being away from America, and it was not related to being useful and needed necessarily, although there was a little bit of all three of those. What it was really related to was my character, which is being active and engaged. I had fallen into a bit of a rut of a routine by virtue of the fact that I didn't need to do anything for myself here. Everything was being taken care of for me. This life had been prepared and built for me. This is something I need to keep in mind when eventually Emily sends me to the retirement home, which I've instructed her to do. I told her the first opportunity when I'm older, As soon as I get to be a pain in the butt, send me to the home. But I'll need to be prepared, because at the home, everything will be taken care of for me, and I'll probably suffer this same problem. The solution was to step out of the shadows of my own life that I got here, this retired life, this splendid little life, and take charge. That opportunity was availed me by the fact that my wife was sick. She's fine. She just had a cold, but she took a couple of days off checked out from timeout from the whole refurb in the house thing. And I took charge. I stepped to the fore. And I didn't just step to the fore. I stepped to the fore with a vengeance. I was like, hold my beer, Yumiko. I'm taking charge of things. You can see the last 2 days' videos if you're curious about the details. And it made all the difference. The only problem that it didn't solve was my sleep issue, particularly related to driving, which I know what that is. It's the sleep apnea, and I'm going to see a doctor here and continue my treatment that I started in the United States. Big, huge revelation for me and it's not about retirement in general. It's more about my character and the type of person that I am. So today's another day like that. I don't know that Yumiko is going to join me today. She's still recovering. Sister-in-law Yoko will. So moving on to slightly different topics. Yesterday I finished the outside of the inside of the house. So the inside house is move-in ready. The Japanese bath could be used. We could use it, but I don't think we will. I think we're going to hire a remodel company to redo the whole inside bath. So otherwise, it's ready to move in. So I'm going to begin work today on the outside of the house, and mainly going around the house or cleaning up and getting rid of all of the stuff. The garden equipment that can't be used, old cans of paint, all that kind of stuff that gets left used that's relative to the outside. And when I was at the recycle center yesterday, I asked them about what to do about things like old cans of paint, chemicals, spray bottles that have some sort of a chemical in there. And they told me, surprised me, they simply said, bring it to the usual Bintokan day. Bintokan is bottles and cans day. And every community here in Japan will have a special recycle day where somewhere in the neighborhood there'll be a spot where you bring it's like, remember Monty Python, bring out your dead, but bring out your old bottles and cans. Usually you have to very carefully clean them, take the labels off, and sort them. And he told me that I take the stuff there, and I said, should I puncture it and let the contents out or spray it out? And no. I mean, you're just propelling that stuff into the environment. He said, bring it as is, and they'll take it from there. I have my doubts. I think if I show up at the Bintokan sorting center in my neighborhood and there's some 80-year-old, what would be an octogenarian there because usually they'll have somebody in the neighborhood, they take turns managing it to make sure that people aren't putting the wrong stuff there. It's precisely what, to watch out for people like me showing up with bottles of spray paint, leaving it behind. Hopefully this person understands this. We'll see. But I'm going to follow, and I talked to Yumiko about it yesterday, and she was like, but that's what they told you to do. Yeah, that's right. That's what they told me to do. So, I mean, if I go there and they tell me no, then I'll figure it out somehow. This is part of me stepping forward into the fray and taking charge of my life here in Japan. So that's what I plan to do, work on all that. So I guess I just now talked about today. No big challenges. Yesterday was a fantastic day, just as the day before was. I think I mentioned it. Did I talk about it? I don't think, yeah, I did. Did I? I wrote about it. In last night's Retiring in Japan video, which is interesting because I write the blog post that goes into the description of the video, but I sometimes don't talk about whatever the blog post was. So let me go over this right now. I was really riding high yesterday on the independence of taking care of everything, working with the Japanese, people that came to the house to do stuff. Well, my wife wasn't feeling well, and Yumiko was staying home, and she had her lunch covered here, and I was on my own, and I was going to the other side of town to Jumbo Encho to hardware store to get something, and it was lunchtime, and I started to think, well, where can I have lunch? I can go to the udon place, or I can go to the ramen place, or I could go to McDonald's, or I could go to Sukiya. These are all the normal places in the neighborhood that are my family and I like to go. Considering my recent, manning up, woman, man up, woman up, whatever. I'm a man, so I'm manning up to my independence here. I thought, all the hell with this. I'm not going to go to someplace we always go. I'm going to go someplace I've never been before. And I started looking around, and I saw some chain restaurants. I thought, screw that. I'm not going to a chain restaurant. They're easy because you go in there, the menu's you can usually have a button on the machine and you can get the English menu. I said, I'm going to go find someplace completely new, and I'm going to go to a completely different part of town. So I was going this way towards Jumbo Encho, the hardware store, and I made a left turn, and I went that way towards the beach. And I got to a kind of a blue-collar neighborhood, and this'll do. I started driving around, scoping for a restaurant, and I found, I spotted this, kind of a dingy-looking little ramen place behind an industrial park, with a bunch of, tough-looking trucker guys standing around outside. I thought, well, if anyone's standing outside waiting, it must be pretty good. This is one I don't know, and there's a parking spot open, just one in front, so I pulled in, parked the car. And they were tough-looking guys. I don't know if they were truckers. They were definitely like, workers of some sort. They were wearing coveralls and tough-looking guy. One guy had a pompadour. One guy had like scars down his face. They're all tan and, tough-looking grizzled hands and stuff like that. And the guy with the pompadour kind of gave me a look like, what are you doing here, foreigner? Not mean-looking anyway, but, it's just, curious look. And I just stood outside. There were like 8 people waiting outside the door. And a young woman finally came over and tapped me on the shoulder and in Japanese told me that I needed to write my name on the list inside. Oh, so thank you. I'm only speaking Japanese, right? So I came inside, wrote my name in katakana, Kato, and went back outside. And so I'm standing out there, and the woman and her boyfriend or husband or something like that were standing there, and I thought, well, okay, Kurt, you can up the ante. So let's have a talk with them, thank them for helping me, and then have a chat. So I thanked them, in Japanese, and that opened the engagement for dialogue. Before long, we're on the phone, we're going over the menu, because the place has got a website. We're going over the menu, and we're talking about the various types of ramen. And we had small talk about the weather, Mount Fuji, talked about, they asked me, of course, where, I was from, and et cetera, and we had a nice talk. After a while, the line started to go down. The couple next to me were called in. Shortly thereafter, I was the next one. The waitress, who happened to be like the woman, there was like a couple that ran the place. She came out and, Kato-sama, looking for me. Here I am. Came in, and I got the seat of honor, just coincidentally, right in front of the chef, right, the ramen chef. And he was delighted to see me, and very excited to have me try his ramen. And he was thrilled it was really good. Thrilled at my response. It was expensive too. It wasn't cheap. It was $12.50 for a bowl of ramen, which is really expensive. It's really rare for ramen to be over 1,000 yen. So $12.50, that's like, $9, something like that. A bowl of ramen like that, first of all, you couldn't get a bowl of ramen like that in Southern California, and it would have been over $20 for sure for that there. Anyway, I'm going on too long. I had a great time. The couple was next to me. We shared some more dialogue. I talked to the master, and when I left, he told me, he says, he was like, come again. I hope you come again. And I will. And when I left, when I left, I realized I had continued this new me, which is breaking out of the mold of the life that my wife had created for us here, and established for her. Thank you, bless you, Yumiko, for doing that. But part of my problem was I had fallen into the rut of a life someone else had built. I need to build my own life. I need to establish my own routines. Now I have my own ramen place. It's my place, because sometimes when the family's here, or just Yumiko and I, we're like, where will we have lunch? Well, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? Now I can like step forward and say, okay, everybody, get in the damn car. I'm driving. We're going to my ramen place, and I know you're gonna like it, and they are gonna like it because it's really good. That experience was emblematic of the change that I have consciously endeavored to make in my new life here, which is a change of stepping to the fore, not waiting, not resigning myself to the life that I've plopped into, but to engaging and energizing myself to live the determined life of a retired man who isn't just waiting around for death, although I am, but is actively waiting around for death. And speaking of death, let's get on with the creed. There are 8 objectives in my creed. You can look these up in my book, Going Alone, in the chapter titled The Good Life. There are 35 attendant principles that go along with that, but that's far too many to enumerate here. The 8 objectives are, and I'll just briefly mention them. That's all I need to do in this exercise is just mention them. I don't have to go into any detail. But on the first one, I will see if I'm ready. The 8 objectives are: 1, to be always ready to die. What that means is I need to have my affairs in order, my relationship sound, and my life's work complete. And I have to ask myself, is that the case? Are my affairs in order? Yes, they are. Are my relationships sound? Yes, they are. Is my life's work complete? In fact, it is. So it doesn't mean my life's done. I've still got lots of work to do, but my life's work is done. My daughter is raised, my book is written, my career is finished. Now I just get to play for the rest of my life, so to speak, but play in worthwhile ways, right? Not just a matter of like drinking margaritas on the beach. My play consists of continuing the work of going alone. Number 2, the second objective is to make good and effective use of time. I'm going to go quickly now. My third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. Number 5, to perform good actions relative to my creed. Number 6, to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, so I operate within scope of my abilities. 7 is to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. And number 8 is to maintain my balance, a very simple sounding objective, but maybe the most complex to do in the moment. Okay, as for today, I'm having a phone call with a friend in America, and I don't know what it is. It's at the top of the hour. I just saw a message from the person flash by. So I need to stop this, refresh my cup of green tea, and then get on the horn with my friend. The other thing is after that I will then, what'll I do? Oh, well, I'm ahead of schedule. I think, well, I'm going to wait for my wife to get up, and so we're going to have breakfast. We'll feed the dogs, we'll walk the dogs, feed the dogs, have breakfast, put on my coveralls, and get started. Go to the house and get started working on the outside of the house. Between after finishing talking to my friend and Yumiko getting up, I think I will read my book. Yep. That's it. Let me answer any questions that there might be in comments before we finish things up. Warren, hi Warren. You're helping me to pass the time in a hospital ER room. Thanks. Oh, you're very welcome, Warren. I did see your message about you going to the hospital. I wish you all the best. I hope that it works out well. I believe it's your wife, right, that's in the hospital. Wishing you all the best, and I hope that you're able to get into the hospital that you want to get into. Act 98005, always good to see you. Kurt, before you start working in the garden, don't you need to pull out the carpet and repaper paint the walls? I don't have to do that first. I could. I'm not gonna. We're not ready to do the internal reform. My wife's gonna lead the charge on the inside reform. I'm the helper. I'm the muscle. So when Yumiko tells me it's time to work on that stuff, I will assist her. The garden is going to be more. Well, let me say this. In the yard, I don't need anybody to lead me. I'm just going to go in the yard and do what the hell I think needs to be done. So no one's told me that yet that I need to work on the inside other than what I've already done. So I'm switching to the outside. Hey, there's April. Good morning, April. April goes on, by the time you're done with all this stuff, you're going to be able to invite the guys at the dump over for a barbecue. No kidding. Oh, did I tell you about the women at the did you see the video the other day of the women at the Starbucks? Man, so I've got the guys at the dump and the 3 gals at the Starbucks. Man, and Mr. Pompadour at the ramen place. I'm getting a real network here. Caleb Schmart Vacuums says, good, that's a new name. I know a guy named Caleb, but I don't know the rest. Welcome if you're a new viewer. Good morning to you. Renaissance says, good morning, Kurt. It is clear that life can be very interesting in Japan. It certainly is. April goes on, look at you getting out there and making new friends. I love those conversations with strangers and finding my place out of the blue. It's something we have to work at, isn't it? The Rose Nose, there's a new name. Welcome. I don't think I've seen you before. Good morning to you. Robert, Believe in Yourself, says, popping in at the conclusion. Hi, Kurt. And Robert, as he's always good to say hi to everybody. Thank you for doing so, Robert. April goes on, and she's responding to Robert. April says, that's how it is at my house too. I give my husband the outside to work on. I think a lot of couples kind of do that, right? They have a division of the divide and conquer, right? Well, the thing is, with the outside, I don't need my wife's guidance because I have no taste. So I can't be like making decisions about the inside. I'm just basically there to help out. But on the outside, when it comes to, taming the weeds, no one needs to guide me. I know how to do that. And Renaissance says, welcome. Hi back to Robert. I'm glad you're such a nice group with one another, and I appreciate everybody stopping in. Before I sign off, I see another message from April. Well, he started on the inside, and now there's a hole in my bathroom wall. A lot of project that he got distracted and gave up. I know how that can be. I'm going to stop now and get on the horn with my friend from America. Wishing you all the best, everybody. Remember, be safe, but not too safe. Take care.